Welcome to Hair Hero, the podcast where we dive deep into the minds of the best in the business to uncover what makes them tick and sometimes what makes them twitch. I'm your host, Ryan Whedon, founder of Masters of Balayage and creator of Masters Academy. Join me each week for impactful conversations with industry leaders, icons, influencers, and trendsetters. Get ready to be inspired, learn from the pros, and maybe even have a laugh or two. Because let's face it, if we can't have fun talking about hair, we're doing it wrong. Let's get started. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am excited today to talk to Ben Brown. This guy. I've been following him for a very long time, and I'm sure you have too, or you've seen his videos or his YouTube. He's just a hair cutter extraordinaire. I asked how he'd like to be introduced, which I always do, and he just says, "Just introduce me how you see me." And I just see him as somebody that is. I'm today meeting you for the first time, really talking to you and talking to him. And he just is like the nicest person on the planet, exactly who I expected I would be talking to. Somebody that really cares about his craft, very passionate in what he does. And I was doing a little bit of digging and just looking into his different course offerings and how he has his own membership site. And, we have Masters Academy, and I've been in the online digital space for quite a long time. So I can't wait to pick his brain and get to know who he is and how he ticks and why he does what he does. Welcome to our podcast today, Ben.
Oh, Ryan, I'm thrilled to be here. I almost stuttered there. That's how excited I am. So I'm thrilled.
All right, I stutter all the time.
By the way, that's a really nice introduction. So we're off to a great start. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. It was when I listened to you talk too, not just today, but on videos and things too. I just love accents. I love when I talk to somebody with an accent. And is it 100% like United Kingdom, or where exactly are you from?
Yes, I am born and bred in quite a small city called Derby, in the East Midlands of England. So I live in Derbyshire at the moment, so slightly out of the main city. But yeah, I'm big fan of it. It's where I was born and bred. And yeah, the accent isn't traditionally local. There's a lot of farmers around this area. So my accent is kind of not exactly the true Derbyshire accent, but I've got it. It is what it is. It's the way I speak now. So, and thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I love accents. I love an accent as well.
I love to butcher them myself too, especially when I've had a few cocktails and I'm like, let me talk a little Harry Potter.
Yeah, absolutely. You do find that it's either Harry Potter or Peaky Blinders. You find that people will imitate one or the other. So they'll either go for Arthur Shelby or they'll go for Harry Potter. So it's always exciting to know which one. So, but no, I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm the same, if I'm in Ireland, I love the Irish accent, and I always really get a good kick out of a good accent. So I'm the same.
Awesome. Sometimes it's hard to pick, especially if somebody's lived in different areas. I know that I have a buddy, a good friend of mine who lives in the UK, but he is actually from South Africa. So he's got this blend, and it's also very cool. And sometimes it's like, is it a bit Australian, or where exactly is it from? But then you learn they say no, or however they say their nose.
Yeah.
In Australia, like, oh, he's definitely from Australia. We're really going off on the accents here. So Ben, you're a left-handed hair cutter, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm lefty.
Yeah. I guess you've always been left-handed. You decided to start cutting, and cutting is your passion, I would assume, because you've got loads of cutting videos, cutting training. You do in-salon education. You do online education. You and I have about the same amount of YouTube followers, I saw, which is cool.
Well, I'm flattered with that. I mean, it's a tricky one, YouTube, and but I think it is. It's really interesting because I've admired what you do for a long time, what Masters of Balayage is, and I've always. I mean, there are few. Like I said to you beforehand, I think what you have achieved with your company and the team and all your wife and everything that's put into it is very singular. I struggle to find a comparison. And I find that being somebody that is so far down the line from what you've achieved, I find what you've done incredibly inspiring.
Thank you.
So I'm very inspired by any craft, I suppose, that is respected and carried out well. And in my area, I have no natural skills in hairdressing at all. Um, but I've always been able to work hard, and I've always been able to. I'm quite resourceful. If I get it wrong, I can guarantee I'll learn how to get it right. And ultimately, the cutting side of things is quite cathartic to me because there's a very specific way you can work around a haircut, which is a technical way. And a technical way means that there's a definite yes and a definite no. Of course, you can elaborate. Of course, that's what creates a personality within, or a style, or what makes it the client's haircut. But I'm very, very drawn to the pragmatic sense of the mechanical sense, if you will, of how a haircut works. And that's probably what helped me to elevate my craft, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. I think we share some similarities there too, where you said you had no natural ability to cut hair, right?
None,
Or with hair.
none.
I'm exactly the same way. I kind of fell into the profession after trying a bunch of other careers and just finally having somebody push me and just saying, "Hey, have you ever tried this? You've
Yeah.
tried a lot of other things. Why try hair?" I'm like, "Me doing hair? Like, oh, I guess let's just do something else, and so I can cross that off my list while I'm trying to find myself." And got into it, and then I realized that I have this, which you probably do too, this great blend between our right brain and left brain, where I'm very creative. We have to be in our field to have a certain degree of creativity, but then also I have this. There's also this strategic part of my brain too, where if I see a skill, I can kind of break it down,
Yes.
deconstruct it, and then find a way through to achieve a creative haircut by using those type of that pragmatic approach to it, by like with a systematically to achieve something while being creative along the way. And I think it's a fantastic blend. And it sounds like that's kind of the way you work as well.
I think you put that in a really good. I think the listeners will really get that, because there has to be a blend of, you can't break the rules until you know the rules, which I believe Anthony Moscolo
Mm-hmm.
said. So you have to kind of know the fundamentals, but then of course the innovation and the creativity is what will keep you moving forward. I think if you just keep playing the same seven songs all day,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get bored. But if you start to look and broaden your horizons, which is what I advise anyone to do in any craft, is to learn from us. I actually love it when somebody doesn't, like, let's say they're kind of online or on social media, and they're saying, I don't agree with this, I think that's wrong. I actually quite like that, because that means that from their perspective, if I can see it from their perspective, I'm going to learn more. And I actually love to learn just as much as I like to teach. So I love to learn from other people. I love that. I love it if someone has a different way of doing it to me. If anything, I want to learn from them. I certainly wouldn't be happy if everybody cut a bob the same way as me, let's say. I see people working with high tension, some working with low tension, some, working through the comb, some working flat to the skin. And absolutely, in every haircut, there's going to be that level of contrast and that level, and everyone's going to have a degree of being right. And I think like if two people understand the haircut 80%, that 20% that they both understand differently is what I would search for in the other person. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always keen to learn. And I think that the reason I teach, I say this all the time, but it's very true. The reason I teach is because I love to learn. It's not because I'm trying to showcase a skill that I've earned over time. It's not because, I've got this huge ego that needs massaging, and I do it through like showing people how good I perceive my work to be. It's
Mm-hmm.
because I kind of respect the fact that it's taken me a long time to learn these skills. And I've got a consumer perspective of education, because I had to retrain myself, use education to improve myself, and really change my life. Change my life totally, from a salon owner with about $50,000 in debt, had to close my business, and then ended up pursuing a career in what I'm doing now. So I managed to cover about 9 subjects in
I
that
know,
one.
I know. And I had a question formed at the beginning of each one during all those. You touched on so many incredible things. One of the first things that I was thinking is that you're saying you don't want to play the same 7 songs over
Mm,
and over and over again. You're going to get bored, right? That's why it's good to
correct.
have that creative side of our brain to succeed and innovate.
Yeah,
Then, but then the other
I think
opposite
that's
can be
exactly
said.
right.
Opposite can be said too. We don't always wake up and go to the salon or go to work inspired. So that's where that right
Mm,
brain comes in handy, where we can just be systematic, be kind of robotic to carry us
mm,
through those lulls, if you will.
very true. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I talked about being a salon owner, and I smiled and I was starting kind of giggled to myself, and I'm like, yeah, I had a salon too, man, and it was not for me. It was not for me at all. Um, I just didn't. I don't know if you enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it or
No.
what happened there, but I just know that a lot of times we open up a salon because we feel like it's the natural progression from going from a hairstylist behind the chair to maybe a salon
Yeah.
suite or to open up your own salon, and that's like what a lot of people might consider the natural flow of success in the industry, which I think our minds have to shift around that. You don't have to own a salon to be massively successful. In fact, if you own a salon, you need to own a salon because you want to own a salon, not because you want to make more money. You
Yeah.
can make more money, but it's a beast.
I mean, I think I was incredibly naive with it. I think I was naive with the amount of time the business needed. I mean, I think like if you're going to open a salon, it's because you want to get more into the business side of the hairdressing industry, because then obviously that's where you can put those skills into play, where you're organizing, managing, and obviously leadership is obviously emotional, and manage it, and obviously managing is structural. So it's, you can start to break all that into your own business. Personally, I just ran it all heart, no head. Ended up after 6 years, I never really earned any money. I was earning more money where I was before as a stylist on the floor, without the stress or pressure. And you are right. There are some days I wake up and I envy somebody who can clock in and
Mhm.
clock out and not have to think about, tax, not have to think about dealing with the entrepreneurial side of, you constantly got to be thinking, forward thinking, how tiring that can be. And I wouldn't say that's a natural thing for me either. I wouldn't say I'm naturally, um, I wouldn't say I was a natural entrepreneur at all. I think there are things I have to work on, definitely. Um, but I think what I always do, is whenever I get a bit of fog with where I'm going or how I'm going to achieve, how am I going to get that house in the countryside for my wife and daughter? How am I going to go to Disneyland next year? I always go back to basics. I always write something for me. Always, if it's a new program, I write it for me, because would I buy it? Would I like if I did hair, if I colored hair, I would definitely have bought all your products. I definitely would have been on your classes.
Same, and I
Um,
say the same thing. I created it for
plus,
who I wish what I wish I had when I was coming up. Balayage. It doesn't matter how you pronounce it. Your clients just want to know that you're good at it because they're paying a lot of money for your service. Sure, you can take a class here and there, search on YouTube, learn a hack here and there on Instagram, but it's never going to be enough, because to excel at balayage, you need structured learning with experts that have been where you are and can show you how to reach your goals. Hi, I'm Ryan Whedon, founder of Masters of Balayage and one of the first balayage experts to bring modern balayage to millions. And right now, Masters Academy, the #1 online trainer for balayage artists, is now offering lifetime memberships. That's right, no more monthly payments, no more overdrafts, just a one-time payment, and you can get over 100 hours of balayage and blonding tutorials on demand to watch and rewatch on your time. Our new Masters Academy lifetime membership also includes our 3 world-famous certification programs: the Balayage Masters Program, the Blonde Masters Program, and the Extensions Masters Program. Not only do you get to own all 3 of these now, you also get Master Certified. So if you're stuck, Lacking that balayage confidence, or just need an awesome excuse to raise your prices? Masters Academy is the answer. And right now, you can save $100 off any lifetime membership. Just go to www.mobmastersacademy.com and use code MYLIFE at checkout to redeem your $100 off promotion. I'm gonna say it again, so go grab a pen and write this down. Go to www.mobmastersacademy.com and use code MYLIFE and redeem your promotion now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The person I was when I retrained, that's who I wrote my book for. That's who I started to film tutorials for. And I felt like the key thing was to always be authentic to myself. Where, like I would think, would I cut my own? Would I pay me to cut my hair? And I would love to cut my own hair. I would love it. I would love it
I
if
would
I could take
love
my
it.
head off and cut it.
Yeah.
I would be so happy if I could do that. But I think that's like my advice to any educator has always been start with yourself, and don't worry if that screen's blank. It's going to be blank. It's going to be blank for a bit. Write, like you just said, write something that you needed back when and where. And, like I struggled to find theory for haircutting, Ryan. I struggled to find, I could find a creative haircut, I could find a shag, I could find all these haircuts, but could I have someone explain, like without any fluff or any extra stuff, could you just explain a convex layer or a concave layer? And there's loads of tutorials that say they're going to explain that. And when I watched them, I'd be like, I still am no clearer. So my goal was always to take away the guesswork. It was to make it simple, but to make it powerful. And would it have given me something? And the majority of what I teach, the majority of what I set out to do, is to keep it simple and to make it powerful. And if I feel it's getting too diffused, then I think, well, we've clearly gone off the reservation, so to speak, with this.
Yeah.
But no, that's exactly what it is. I start with me first. Would I buy it? Yeah, then we'll move forward with it.
Right. I think that's how you got to create what you're passionate about. I think a lot of again misconceptions of when people are creating products, whether it's haircutting courses or things, they're trying to please the masses.
Yes.
And yes, we got to give people what they want. But if it's not inspired within you, if it's not something that you would want to take or learn, you're not going to have that kind of fuel behind it that's going to last the course of the entire course or months. Or it's going to die off. It's going to be very ephemeral, if that makes sense. Like you got to do it. Imagine who you were, be who you were when you were young. Who you needed when you were young. And I just think too, if I could go back and take a course like I took, I could shave years off getting to where I am now.
Goodness me. Yeah.
And I just would dive in with all that hard work that when I had all that energy 20 years ago that I don't have now because I've got kids of my own and a wife, and it's just you talked about Disneyland ain't cheap, man. those vacations they're not cheap, and taking care of our kids, and we have different priorities now, which is it changes everything. If I could go back with that energy that I had in my 20s, I just think about, oh my gosh, what would I do? It was funny. I was on whose podcast recently, maybe Elizabeth Faye. I might've been talking to her, and she said I think she asked me a question at the end of the podcast, and she said, I like to ask my guests, if you could go back and do something differently, what would you do, 20 years ago or whenever it was, if you go back 10, maybe it was 10 years from now, what would you do? And it was funny because I just said, I'd invest in Bitcoin. Just something that was kind of like, I guess she
how
would
much
expect people
easier
to,
would life be if we'd done that.
If I had just known about that earlier. No, but it seems you're a family man, which it sounds
100%,
amazing. I totally understand that, and I feel like you and I are kind of like brothers in a way. We seem very similar to each other just from chatting with you, and it's very, very cool. I'm curious, when you got into hair, what age were you?
I was 16. I
Okay.
did. I didn't start straight away. So I left school at 16. So in the UK, you leave school back then, which was 1996, a long time ago. I'm 44 as we sit here now. And ultimately, I wanted to be an architect. That was this. I was chasing like a status job, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I thought there's going to be some money in architecture. I'm going to get a cool briefcase and I'm going to be important. I get a business card. And I didn't enjoy it one bit. And my sister was working part time in a hair salon, and I was after a part time job. I had no money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I wanted to start going out and things, had no money. So I got this part time job in a salon. And I've never really seen anything like it before. I've never seen people like that. The energy of the men, the charisma, of the whole area, how everyone was dressed, the atmosphere, and I've never really been around that before. I never really seen men like that. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
working class person. That's where I grew up. So you never really saw men dressed like that, acting like that, and it was an incredible atmosphere. And the only natural attribute I brought to my job was the only thing I've ever done where I was able to rise above others was my work rate, my output. No natural skills, can't draw, can't play music, can't sing, can't dance. But, I would always work incredibly hard and see a task to its completion. No moaning. I thrive on it, actually. My self esteem's higher when I've put in, as we say in England, we put a shift in.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I started working in a hair salon, and it was just a very natural thing. What was natural about it was the service. I enjoyed service. I never struggled to talk to the clients. I never struggled with the work. I never moaned. I didn't care. I didn't see any indignity in cleaning floors or cleaning toilets. I felt I was part of the theatre of the company. I felt like the senior stylist skill base was at a level where they brought in all the money. And I thought, well, they haven't got the time to make sure the toilet roll is there for the client, that the towels are neat, but that's the standard. And I could be like, I can work to that standard. And I felt like being a senior stylist wasn't a price, it was an attitude and a standard. And I've always been a senior stylist. And the second I was released from my shackles because I was so ready for it, but I've jumped ahead a bit. Essentially, I did a year of architecture before
Mm-hmm.
I was offered a full-time apprenticeship where I was. I'd grabbed it with both hands. Everyone in my family was kind of, very supportive. He's quitting architecture to do hair, but no one ever even mentioned it. They were just like, well, if you want to do that, you've got one life to live. Very supportive. And I felt like I'm in a job where I could be who I want to be. I can do anything I want to do if I only apply myself. And that wasn't a problem for me. That was never an issue for me. Um, so I really worked incredibly hard and rose to the ranks quickly and hungrily, really became a very busy stylist. But this is where it got interesting for me because I thought I was a fantastic hairdresser because I was always fully booked. I beat every target given me, and I prided myself on it. I wouldn't take holidays hardly ever. I was completely infatuated with this job and this career. Um, when I was 29, I've been married for almost 20 years, and when I was 29, my wife and I had our daughter, and everything changes then because you immediately take stock of your life, I think, and you analyze it as to say, well, how I've always wanted, Ryan, like a farmhouse in the countryside with a little bit of land, no
Mm-hmm.
neighbors. That's my heaven. That's what I do it all for. Nothing else really gets a fire under me but that thought of that this is what I've achieved.
Mm-hmm.
It's what me and my wife have achieved together. And I would say that I immediately thought owning a salon was the way because my boss was very rich and successful, and he owned four salons, but he was a different breed to me. He was so much better than me. And I didn't realize how good he was until I left and opened up my own salon. I didn't realize how much he did. I put my own salon, absolute nightmare, had no money, no receptionist. can't afford this, can't afford that, absolute nightmare, hell on toast, hated it, absolutely hated it. Struggled through it for 6 years, and in the end, the tax man just comes up to you, is giving you enough chances, and something has to happen. And we closed, and I did fail. There's absolutely no question about it. I did fail, but there's no way on earth I'm a failure. I say this joke quite often when I tell this story, Ryan, and I say, if I was to race against Usain Bolt and I lost against Usain Bolt, no one would go, well, that's a massive failure on your part. I can't believe you
Mm-hmm.
didn't beat Usain in a sprint. Owning a salon was the wrong race, just as the Usain Bolt analogy is ridiculous. I'm in the right race now.
Uh-huh.
What I do now feels, I don't struggle um, with things like I used to. I don't. I'm so relieved you said the energy thing, because my God, I feel the difference in energy.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness me, like the energy I had in my 20s and my like late teens, I was like a firecracker. But now I feel like after 4 p.m., I'm ready for a hot milky drink and I lie down. So you know, but ultimately, I sort of very quickly went through that. But I'm where I am not because of any God given talent. And where I am is just a hairdresser that loves what they do, and has worked hard for every opportunity they've got. And when been given an opportunity, I've not always found myself full of courage. If I'm about to work on stage in front of lots of people, I've not always found a natural confidence. I always feel if I'm nervous, I'll do it nervous. If I'm scared, I'll do it scared. If I'm worried, I'll do it worried. But I'm not going to not do it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found is that retaining a sense of credibility to me only allows me to never worry about relevance and chase what I think is the next hashtag or whatever it is. I simply stay true to what I find the most beautiful of haircutting, or the thing that I found that naturally pulls me to a haircut. The core of what I love doing is precision cutting. And I always try to build my work around that. Whenever I try and do something really edgy and crazy, it never works, because I'm chasing the hashtag, as I say.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have, what helps me with my job, what I feel helps me is I do have a consumer perspective, because I did retrain myself when I was 34. So I've used education like everybody else, like people who use our education sites. We were those people at one point, which enables us to have this perspective of what did we like, what didn't we like, what am I looking for from this tutorial, you know, explain to me the core thing I'm going to take away from this, and then I'll look for it. I
Yeah,
love it.
I love that Usain Bolt analogy there. That it was just you were just running the wrong race.
Yeah,
I
it
never
was.
thought about it that way before. When I look at the industry today as a whole, and of course this is for fear of making any kind of a blanket statement, but I see a few things, and of course when I say I see things on social media that people are talking about and posting, and of course everybody's a coach now, everybody's a trainer, everybody's got something to say that's
Yeah,
this is right or that's wrong, and you said that earlier too, and I agree there is no right or wrong. It's like what's going to help you achieve your goal faster? What's the shortcut? That's what we need to be
yeah.
teaching, but when we look at the industry as a whole, I feel what's lost is that desire to take these opportunities to work really hard for fear of, even if it's doing something for free, just to be part of an experience, to learn from it. When you look at even your students, when you look at people on Instagram, do you think that people that are posting are missing the mark, or they're just trying to find their place in what race they should be in? What would be your
I think
advice for
there
somebody
are.
that's like, are we lost? Is it like a lost kind of a generation right now? I don't know what's happening.
I think that I think we always have to be very careful of like chasing the blue tick or the
Hmm.
followers. I think it's a lot of the people some people that I think are the world's greatest hair cutters don't have huge followers, but they have huge amounts of credibility within the industry. So I would say I think there's room for all of us. I would just say that for me, I found hard work. For me, I love it. It massively gives me a huge boost of self-esteem. I feel that I respond to something like that. I find it difficult. I think I have to manage expectations quite frequently. People will watch you cut a graduated bob, let's say, a technical haircut that's been here before me, it'll be here after me. And it's taken me, let's say, 1,000 hours of practice to get anywhere near the mark on it. They watch me do it. Um, they do it once. And when it's not exactly like mine, there's a sense of, well, I don't think I can cut hair, and I'm always very
Hmm.
quick to give this response to that. I always say that you've just watched me cut that haircut, but you didn't watch the first time I cut it. You've never seen my first time of cutting that haircut. You didn't see my 10th time, my 50th time, or my 100th time. You've seen probably my 5,000th time, let's say, hypothetically. I should be good at it. I'm not good at it because I possess a skill you don't. I possess hours of practice that you don't. That's the difference. That's the disparity right there. And what I loved about that is that I can change that in a month. I could do 8 hours of practice a week, if you will. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, and I immediately, you can think of those. Because I think if someone said you get 50 hours on one task and you sort of not master it, but you get better at it. There was some sort of thing that spurred me
Hmm.
on, because I remember every day after work when I was retraining myself, every single day after work, I did the same haircut, the graduated bob. So I wanted to do it for 100 days without stopping. And I wanted to film it every day so that I could, one, watch the film back to critique it, to help me improve for day two. What are my list of errors from day one? After day two, I need to see that list smaller, because then if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So then the
Hmm.
next thing would be that I could see the first video and the last video, and there should be some huge difference between them. But how many people would do that? 100 days without stopping. You measure your success by what you're prepared to sacrifice to achieve it. And I want my success a lot more than I want anything else. I'm working. I think as long being a family person is a big deal, because your goals are no longer for you, and when they're only for you, we can be selfish with that. I think, Ryan, we could say,
Hmm.
you know what, I can't. I don't want it enough. I need a day off. You can talk yourself into it, but when it's not for you, when it's for your daughter or your wife, the center of your universe, there's suddenly a different gear. You find a whole other gear where when you're tired, you'll still keep working. I don't know, some of the travel we have to do, if
Hmm.
people think it's like this, like acting like 50 Cent driving up to a private plane. That's not nothing. You don't see the hours in an airport, the little coach seat where I'm far too big for the seat and I'm being squashed into it. And it's all a privilege. It's all a privilege. You can't have light without shade. But it's unrealistic to think that you're going to be doing exactly the same work as someone who's been through what they've needed to go through to get where they want to get. And you do it once and you go, well, I can't do it.
Hmm.
The easiest thing is quitting. You know,
Right. Right.
quitting is
Yeah,
great. So
you don't see the travel woes that go into the hard work that we do, and that get traveling influencers and educators do. Like you're saying, it's not, we don't have the private planes. You don't see the 4 a.m. pickups like to go to
no,
the airports. You could wait in a long TSA line if you have TSA. Yeah. You don't, the lost luggage, the gosh, the list goes on, trying to find a clean bathroom in an airport. Just a lot of things that
and
add
some
up over
travel
the
days are like
years. That and
29
just the
hours.
jet lag.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, the jet lag.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And leaving your
tough.
family, it's gosh, I love being around my kids, and
Yeah.
it's so nice to have a break every now and then, but it's very true that once they go to sleep, even if it's been a hard day with them, once they're asleep, you kind of miss them a little bit while
Yeah,
they're
100, I
sleeping.
remember that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And times when I've had to travel for multiple days at a time, I mean, you get really bummed if you can't FaceTime them every
yeah.
day if something comes up or they went to bed early or just the schedules didn't coordinate itself, and it really, as a parent, it
It's really
affects
hard
you.
leaving as
Yeah,
well. Like
yeah.
sometimes when you've got to go, I did about 20 days away
Hmm.
a couple of years ago. I said I'd never do that again.
It's a long time.
Yeah, it really, really was.
Yeah.
And it was just before Christmas, and but it was a really, really kind of big opportunity. Well, it's a difficult one because then you just feel very guilty, like you've put an opportunity ahead of the time. The jobs will come and go, but the time won't. But at the same time, that enabled me to take my family to Disney World in Florida, we've been twice now. So once at Christmas, once at Halloween.
Uh-huh.
So I always say it's never about anything ostentatious. It's about the memories. So like we know what it's like to be there Christmas morning at Disney. Now
Right.
those things wouldn't come if I wasn't in a car at 2 a.m. every now and again.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, they're
so
earned.
I'm quite happy to trade that. I'm quite
Hmm.
happy to trade. You got to be. I think if you are going to do a lot of traveling as an educator, you've got to forget about being comfortable. You've just got to be quite happy to be on your feet a lot. And like I think I was laughing the other day because I was in Ireland and there was this really nice couple from America there, and they couldn't believe how polite the airport staff are. And to be
Hmm.
fair, they in America they're terrifying. That the TSA they're pretty
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
Put your back down. It's like, okay,
Laptops out. Laptops out.
yeah.
Shoes
It's
off.
like
Shoes
it was
off.
like pretty scary.
Just like,
But
just
yeah,
relax.
it was. But no, I'm going to be in America a couple of times, or three more times this
Uh,
year, which is amazing. And I go to Puerto Rico. I go to Ireland this weekend. Next weekend I'm in Puerto Rico. So, and each one of those traveling days will be 29 hours. And then you've got
wow.
to have an 8 hour, I think it's 9 hour jet time difference. So you have to, and then what I realized, Ryan, and I know you're the same, and I've got a really good story about you in a sec. I'm just going to share a really, really positive one.
Good. I like
Is
positive stories
is
about
that
me.
we know that we've got to perform.
Uh-huh.
We know that they've not hired us for our boyish good looks. We're there to perform and deliver something significant. Okay, and I know that any investment made, they need a return on. So I'm always very focused on that. But I remember you did something recently, might have been last year, and it was probably at maybe like Orlando or something like that. And Jacob Kahn, who's an amazing friend of mine, and hands down one of the best educators
Mhm.
going, Jacob Kahn. He doesn't really, he doesn't say nothing for nothing. He doesn't get impressed easy, and he was blown away by what you did. It was like this huge auditorium. It was absolutely packed with people wanting to see you, who had been part of Masters of Balayage and were part of that community, part of Mob, and that you literally you couldn't get in the room. And he just said it was one of the single most impressive things he's seen.
Really?
Yeah,
Was that
that's what
at a
he
hair
said.
show?
Yeah. Well, I think it was maybe it was like a private class.
Okay.
Yeah, but he said it was just so impressive. That's what and I said to him though that anything you come across with from Mob, you often do stop and look at it and go, how clever. How has he thought of that before me again? You know, and it's like I said, it's very singular. It's very singular. And I've had the privilege of teaching a school in America that you taught at, and they've run out like one of your programs and mine, kind of not alongside, but they've ran both, and
Yeah.
their work is, and one of their team who's done your course has just
Oh,
finalized.
TG,
Yeah,
right?
TG in
Yeah.
Connecticut.
Right.
Matt and Dan, father and son.
Yeah, they're such
Yeah,
great guys.
they're such
Yeah.
great guys. And one of their guys, Dayla, who did your program, was just finalised in the 100 best. The behind the chair 100 top 100 students. Her
Hmm.
work, her balayage, was ranked in the top 100.
Incredible.
So you see, it's just although I know this was supposed to be about me, I also, chatting to me,
I don't mind
I
stories about
really,
me,
I
especially when they're
really
good.
was looking forward to even as a hair cutter.
Uh,
Like I look at it and think that is really clever how it's done, incredibly inviting, very, very consumer friendly, and and to have Jacob, Jacob Carney, he knows what it's like to work in front of an audience. I've been very honored to work on stage with Jacob, Long Beach, and you know, and he's a fantastic showman as well as a
he's
fantastic
so
hairdresser.
natural.
Yeah, he's probably
Yeah.
one of the funniest people I've ever
Mm.
met in ever as well.
Yeah.
He's such a funny guy.
It's funny because we've had him on our hero stage several times, and you never know what's going to come out of his mouth.
No, no.
And at times you're just like, oh gosh, what's the crowd reaction to that? Is it going over well? I remember one of the funniest things he did. It's so inappropriate. It was funny, and he's the first one that'll admit that half the stuff he does is inappropriate, but he stands behind it, and it's just funny because he says it. If I had said it, it would be a whole different cancel culture kind of thing, right? But he'll say during one of our first heroes that was right after COVID. It was like the first time we were allowed to have events again, and he was
Mm.
there. He was part of it, and we were all kind of, a good portion of the people were in masks. Some of them aren't, and he just was talking about COVID. He's like, "All right, everybody, look at the person next to you and cough on them. We're
Oh
all in
my,
this together."
that is so him. That is, yeah,
We're just
Jacob.
like, and that's how he started his segment. We're just like, oh, geez. What? so we would have to have like debriefs with him and his team. Okay, so is there any jokes that you possibly want to say that can you just run them by us a little bit in advance so that we can make sure it's gonna fit with what we're trying to get across? But he's such a great person, and we love working with him. And gosh, he is quite the talent. And
Yeah, he
just to
really
be
is.
that natural and be great at what he does, and just that also have that kind of unfiltered, like, I want to help you, but I'm also going to be extremely blunt, honest with you
Mm.
as well. Especially the way he reacts to
Oh my
haters.
God, it's hilarious. It is
I wish, I
hilarious.
wish,
The online polls.
I think a lot of us wish we had the courage to respond to haters that way. I've
See,
I've
I
done
always
that
delete and
before.
block them.
Yeah,
Delete and block them.
yeah.
Always
I've
delete and
deleted and
block.
blocked
Yeah.
too, and occasionally I have responded in a kind of a snarky way, and then I was worried about what they would say back. So I feel like he just doesn't have that part of his brain where he worries about it
No.
coming back.
And he says quite brutal things as well.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really,
yeah,
really funny.
yeah. We love you, Jacob.
Yeah.
So you in your career, you own a salon that didn't go that great for you, and you learned that was not the race to be in. And then, how long ago did you start doing your own education? You've probably been educating for a long time, two people, but as
Mm.
far as like paid education, in salon trainings, you are coming to the U.S. to train. I would assume to educate, to be part of a show or something,
Yeah.
and then you have your online
Yeah.
training. I know that's a lot. But when did you start to see like, hey, this is where I need to be. This is the race. This is going to get me that house in the countryside where my
Yeah.
family can live peacefully.
The way I wanted to achieve that has
Mm.
changed so many times. But I've never given up on it. But I've had to keep pivoting. But it was
Mm.
probably 2016. I'd been retraining for a couple of years, and then I started to. I auditioned for this incentive from L'Oreal called the ID Artist Program. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that, but you essentially get a 2-year mentoring program. And it was the first time I'd ever had to like present my work in front of industry professionals. And I somehow managed to get on the program anyway. They only selected like 4 from each region, and I managed to get in. And then I was in this room full of people that I'd read about, from salons I'd read about, and everything was a lot more human than I thought it was going to be. It wasn't as out of. I don't. I'm not saying this because I think my skills were good. Far from it. It wasn't an unreachable goal because they were like talking. They put their shoes on one at a time, like I do. There was nothing out of this world where I felt like I can't achieve that. I need a genie out of a lamp to achieve that. Everything can come and through a lot of repetition and hard work. It's going to come slow, but it will come. And I don't mind that. I don't mind the hard. I like the hard. I'm built for that. And then I ran into a lot of money trouble around to the same sort of time, maybe with tax and things. I'll be totally honest with you. Just misran my business, and I've got no excuses. I don't look for them either. I'm not a victim. It is just what it is. But ultimately, I started to have people, because I was, just to share, like when I was retraining, I filmed myself a lot, and I continued that after the 100 days. Um, and I would eventually start to post videos of my efforts, and that sort of started building my social media, because it appeared that with cutting, people responded very much to the technique. They responded very much to the cutting videos back then. Now, obviously, we have the reels and things. We've had to pivot thousands of times. Every time you think you're getting it right, Instagram will change something for you. But ultimately, when my business closed, which was November 2017, I obviously focused on my education. I sort of said the business has failed. I came out and did like a Facebook Live, and I just said, I just want to be really honest and transparent. It has actually failed. It has. I'm not going to try to say that I've had a change of heart or anything. No, none of that. I've done a bad job and it's failed. And as a result of that, I'm really unhappy, and I would like to stop doing whatever makes me unhappy, and I'm going to go and pursue my career in education. And the name BB Education actually came from people laughing at me who just couldn't see it. You'd never been Sassoon trained, you never worked for a major company, and you're going to be an international educator. Well, global. No, I'm just joking. But my goal was to never be international. My goal was just to be a technically very proficient haircutter. That was the initial goal. And then obviously when I posted this video, obviously that got shared a lot. It wasn't like I planned it, but obviously that got me a lot of buzz around my education company. And then I would get emails, oh, how much would it be for you to come to our salon? I had no idea what to charge people. So you'd say like, I don't know, like $600 or something. And obviously then my business grew, and then the reason I created online education in 2018. That's when we launched that. And I did that because I learned a lot from online tutorials. I quite liked it. I saw it as such an efficient method, an efficient delivery of the information. I could watch it in between clients. If I felt a bit dry, or I felt like I didn't quite have the idea nailed on, I'd watch something quick. So, I loved online education. I'd never see it as a substitute for a hands-on class, but I think it's a great accompaniment. Absolutely. So I launched that because it was something that I felt I had a great insight into. Didn't have a lot of success for the first 2 years. Of course, in 2020, what happened? We're in lockdown. So I had a digital online product ready with about 100 tutorials ready. Can you imagine how lucky that is to have that ready to go? I've had it for 2 years.
I know how lucky that is, because I started mine in 2017, and 2020 was one of my best online years.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But then obviously now it's, different, because one, there's a lot more opportunity for people. Like I had to spend a lot of money on the website. I'm sure you're aware of that as well, to have all the things. Whereas now you can just get a subscription through Instagram or a private page on Facebook. So, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that it's not like it was in 2020 anymore. But I've always pursued creating something, like we said before. My cutting classes, core and evolve, they're the two main things I teach, are all classes I would go on, But I just have a lot of my inspiration is very industry centered. I'm very inspired by what you've achieved. There's many hairdressers. There's huge amounts of hairdressers that I find incredibly inspirational. And I think that's one of the nicest things about our industry, and having social media for our industry, is that I'm able to see what Stanley Lau is doing in China, or Lindell Salmon's doing in Australia, or Javier Romero in Mexico. So you straight away at night sit there in bed, have a little scroll through, see a lot of abusive comments about my weight, delete
Mm-hmm.
block, delete block, delete block.
Mm-hmm.
And someone asked me the other day, says, why doesn't it bother you when someone's just like totally tearing apart your physical appearance like that? Well, it's very simple. Nobody great does that.
Right.
Like nobody great would do that. So I'm not particularly going to waste my minutes that I've got, worrying about those
So the
things.
whole hurt people kind of a philosophy, right? Yeah. I
Mm.
mean, who would actually take the time to do that unless they just kind of are projecting or hate themselves? They want to take the focus away from their own internal demoralization, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're not
Sad.
having a
It's
great
sad that we have
time.
to face that. No, they're not having a good time. No, life is not their friend right now, at that given moment. Yeah. Yeah. There's just no need for the haters. It's none. And I love the way you were just able to just like, next, kind of next, delete block next, delete block
Delete
next.
block. Yeah.
Yeah. Thankfully that's available to us. When I think about what celebrities though must go through on the daily, I was recently, I mean, Justin Timberlake went through something else he just got a
Yeah.
DWI. And it's, for somebody that has done so many great things, but then of course we all have our flaws. We're human, man. It's just like, it's just constant. People just
You
look for
can't
this
do it.
chance to
Yeah.
jump on anything they can to try to tear somebody else down. Like why is that fun? That shouldn't be fun.
No.
Go do something with
No.
your life, do something positive. I mean, I think of how great our world would be if we just all focused on the beauty and the sunshine and helping other people, supporting other people, being there to motivate, to inspire, instead of trying to tear others down.
I mean, I'd never get any satisfaction out of doing that.
Same.
I've never, thankfully, I've never been in a situation where I've I've had a really vicious argument with someone or a physical side of things, anything like that. And I just don't see what you take away from that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but that's personally just me. I think that it would really affect me if I knew I'd really done something horrible to
Mm-hmm.
somebody. I think it would be horrendous. I would struggle to live with myself. It would be a really bad thing. I certainly wouldn't like it. And Justin Timberlake, I mean, I just feel now I'm sort of losing touch with all what's current,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
in music wise, especially. And I know it's bad when I can't spell people's names anymore. So they'll go like, this person's called Tiger. And I'm thinking, okay, Tiger. No, it's Tyga. I'm like, right, okay, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I
I just feel
couldn't have spelled that.
claustrophobic. I don't know what's happening.
Right. We have a lot of young people on our team, and even in the office here. And when I'm talking about putting on music or something, I'm pulling up these bands that are either obscure. People's choice of music are so different these days that it's not just like, not everybody likes the Rolling Stones or even knows who they are, or grunge bands or emo, or whatever's nostalgic to us might
Yeah.
be something that somebody else has like never even possibly heard of. It's bizarre, man. The older we get, it's almost like I'm to a point right now where it's like, I don't really care what you do or what you believe in. I don't care if you think the earth is flat. It's great for
No.
you. Like whatever. Are you a nice person? That's all I
Yeah.
care about. Are you nice? I don't care what you believe in. I don't care if you're left or right. Are you nice?
I mean, I was saying this, my daughter's 14 now, and I was saying
Mm-hmm.
that I don't want to have expectations of what she does for a living or any of those things, but
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that we've guided her to be a good person, to be a good human being, to look for the good before you look for the bad, to not be don't be quick to anger, don't be quick to judge, you know. I sometimes, like driving, I have to drive a lot, and sometimes people just, when they're just terrible drivers and they just cut you off, and you're thinking, "Oh my God, this is terrible,"
Mm-hmm.
But I try to rationalize it and just thinking, let that go, because there's no benefit to me. That's not going to push me further towards my goals, in
Mm-hmm.
feeling negative. And I'm about to go to a salon that I've paid hard-earned money to have me with them, and I take that responsibility, very seriously. When I was a salon owner, Ryan, we spent money on having educators in, and it was a lot of money, a lot more than I
Mm-hmm.
charge. And I remember, thinking to myself, they must be a millionaire. That educator must, earning
Yeah.
that money for one day's work. And you just assume then they earn that Monday to Friday. You don't realize that perhaps they're not going to earn that every day. But ultimately, that's not the case. I know that's not the case. But so when I go to a salon, I immediately draw on my experiences of hiring guest educators in. And you want them to, they are significant to us, because without them, the dream doesn't work. So when someone takes the time to email me about a potential date, or like I say, when I got booked for Puerto Rico, that came up through social media. I've had quite a lot of bookings this week for next year, and they all came through email. So I always like to just take the time to email back personally and not just copy and paste something in, because assuming I'm such a busy hairdresser, I'm never going to be too busy to be personal with this. It is personal, it's not transactional, it is emotional. You're wanting to have some education, you want a specific result, and then your team will want individual results, and I accept the responsibility of helping you achieve those. That's the general gist.
Absolutely. Well, man, if I was a student, I mean, I'm always a student for life. That's definitely a motto. But if I was a student, like, or a cutter, I would love to take your class. And I would just love to sit through one of your classes anyway, because I just love education. I love to learn. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you here today. We have so many similarities. I really hope we cross paths soon in person. And if you're anywhere near San Diego or LA, you got to come to San Diego. You got to come into the studio. You got to say hi. We got to connect at some point, man.
Next year I'm in San Diego.
Fantastic. Just give me the dates. We'll shoot something. We'll record something together. It's been an absolute pleasure, man. It's been a pleasure. I had a blast today. Had a blast. Well,
thank you so much for having me.
And how can people?
You go ahead.
That's all right. That's all right. If somebody's listening to this and they're just like, dude, I got to get some more Ben Brown, where can they go? To your website, to your socials? What's the best way to connect with you?
I'd say the best place is Instagram. That's probably where I'm most active, I'd say. And that's just at Ben Brown Hair. I would say you're welcome to email me at any time. You can drop me a DM I always answer every DM, always. So if you drop me a DM, as long as I can, as long as it's not an outright sales pitch, like, I don't mean from the person, but sometimes it's someone trying to sell me some scissors from the other side of the world or something. So, but absolutely, I love it when someone takes the time to message. So yeah, that's the best way to contact me, Instagram.
Well, thank you guys for listening today. I hope you got a lot out of this conversation as much as I did. So thank you again, Ben, and we'll chat soon.
Ryan, it was great. Thanks for having me. Have a great time today. I'll see you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Hair Hero. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star review. It helps us reach more listeners just like you. And don't forget to screenshot this episode and share it on Instagram, tagging us at Masters of Balayage. We'd love to see your posts and share them. Until next time, remember, be bold, be brave, be you. See you in the next episode.